Hey guys, Jess again from Confess with Jess, the movie Oscar watching edition. Want to thank everybody who subscribed and who liked and who commented. Shout out to my girl Ainsley on my last video. Really appreciate it. Welcome to episode number 2. I'm super excited about this one because I'm a huge musical lover and thrilled that most likely 3 of them will be included in this year's list of nominees. Absolutely positive about 2. One of them we're still questioning, kind of up in the air, but I think it probably deserves it. So for the sake of time, because I do want to keep these videos around the 20-minute mark, I'm just gonna jump right in since we have 3 to talk about. And I love, when I was preparing for this week, I love how these 3 films are connected in a not obvious way. So I'm gonna start reviewing them in the order that I last saw them, so that I most recently saw them. And then I'll talk about the connections I find throughout, okay? So the first one, In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda. Reading some reviews about this one. And, you know, a lot of people were excited about, of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda and more Latinx representation in films. Few people I was watching videos on and reading about thought this film was still a little bit whitewashed, with some of the main characters not being from the Latinx community. So there's back and forth about that. My general impression of the movie, wasn't as excited about it as I hoped I would be. When the trailer came out, I was thrilled. The super catchy In the Heights song. I must say, I have never seen the stage production of this. I've never, any of the films we're talking about today, have I seen the stage production. So I have nothing to compare it to. But I just felt a little lackluster. I was comparing it in my mind, and I hate to say this, to like High School Musical-esque. It kind of had that feeling. Cheesy, but not in a like embrace the cheese, we're gonna go with it kind of way. Almost like this should have been a made-for-TV movie, maybe should have been released on Disney Plus. And then I kept reminding myself, like, this is Lynn, this is who did Hamilton. And for me, and you can of course disagree with me on this, but I felt like a lot of the songs sounded like Hamilton. The same beat, I don't know, even some refrains and a chorus in one of them sounded exactly like a few of the songs for me. And well, part of me is like, that's cool because it's recognizable. You know, well, that beat, that sound, that intonation, whatever, is Lin. It's his style. But for me, it was just kind of like, is it too repetitive? I didn't really connect with it. I didn't really connect with the characters. The romantic connection between the 2 leads I thought was lacking, or again, I thought was just a little bit too, I want to say sophomoric here. So not a big fan. I do love how it was very colorful. Like the cinematography is just like bright. You're dealing with a community that, you know, is struggling for money. A lot of them are playing the lottery to try to make ends meet, to try to make it big and get out. Like the whole story is, let's, you know, do better, further yourself, make more money, get out, provide for yourself and your family, which of course is commendable. But the colors around it, the bright rainbow effect, a lot of graffiti artists, like that was the main theme, colorful clothing, a lot of fashion here. That was fun. That was really fun. And I thought it was reflective of the spirit of the community, of wanting more and not being, you know, brought down by their economic situation. So I loved that. I did think it was great acting. I do appreciate the acting. They were all very talented, so I hate to say I don't know, I love Anthony Ramos. He obviously is in Hamilton too. I just didn't really connect with it. I'm going to give it, and Tig and I were talking about how I'm rating these and how, there's like half of these movies I still haven't seen. And what if I get to one that should have been the 5 and I gave a 4.5 a little too early? And I'm thinking of it in a way of I'm grading them individually now, as if they are not being compared to one another, just individually I'm grading them. So with this one, it was not too high for me. I literally gave it a 2.5, and I'm sorry that's the lowest one I've given so far, but I wouldn't watch it again. I had downloaded the soundtrack when it first came out, not having seen the movie and had not listened to it yet, but probably won't listen to that either. Again, pure opinion, but not a big fan. Moving on to the next movie that I saw was West Side Story. So I saw West Side Story, did I see that? Christmas Eve, I saw that with Tig, and was really excited. It's the first time I'd been to the theater. I think it was the next one, Tick Tick Boom, was the first time I had been to the theater since COVID. But this was one of the second time, and I was blown away by the West Side Story trailer. If you have not watched the trailer, even if you've watched the film, watch the trailer again. It is so epic, the way the music is cut with certain scenes. It made me really feel thrilled for a film. And unfortunately, I feel like the most excitement I had about that film was from the trailer and not from the film itself. Although I do think it deserves awards, and I do think breaking it apart in individual pieces I appreciate, but as a whole, I was not that excited about it, which I'm sad. It's really disappointing to me. So I think you all know this was directed by Steven Spielberg, which is kind of shocking because we think of him as what? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind, E.T., Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, classic, not musicals, not usually, I love how I can't think of the word right now that encompasses those 3 films, but adventure and sometimes coming of age, but not musical. And I was like, oh my gosh, we take one of the best musicals of all time with one of the best directors of all time and put those together, it is going to be pure magic. And that's why I think coming into it, maybe a lot of us were disappointed. Another thing, really, really poorly at the box office. And a lot of people think it's because that's about the start of Omicron. No one was really wanting to go in the theater at that time. I saw it at the tail end of when it came out. It came out beginning of December. And there was 3 other couples in the theater who saw it. So it tanked in that way. And I think that's the only reason why. Another thing I'm worried about is, did it tank because people now are not thrilled or not excited to see musicals, which is why I'm so happy for this episode and talking about these 3, because I feel like we need to keep those alive. We need to keep them in the scene. If people are not going to Broadway, they're not going to see shows, we need another avenue that they find these musicals. I mean, I was lucky enough to have grandparents who took me to theater, but I'm thinking of cousins and friends who didn't, but they still loved musicals because they saw movie adaptations, etc. So we can't lose that, but I digress. Yeah, it made 60 million or so at the box office, which isn't that much. And I used to know the number off the top of my head of how much it cost to make the film, but comparatively, it was not a win for them. Another thing that kind of taints the film is one of the main actors who plays Tony, Ansel Elgort. He has not been in the limelight in a favorable way. A lot of issues about sexual harassment for him of minors which I did not know until the film came out. So I don't think he will be nominated for an actor, although I do really think he did a phenomenal job. I mean, I know him from like The Fault in Our Stars, so from romantic comedies, and not that that's comedy, but romantic like YA stuff. So seeing him in this, I don't know, I think of West Side Story as a very old Hollywood cinematic production. So seeing him and even Rachel Ziegler, who plays Maria, felt almost a little like In the Heights for me, for like Disney-ish. And I'm a huge fan of Disney. I don't want to knock Disney. But in this role, in this film, which feels like it should be epic, I feel like the actors fell a little flat for me. Rachel Ziegler has a beautiful voice, phenomenal. Found out of nowhere, like was not, it has not really been in anything else. I mean, Spielberg found her from like an audition tape from a production in her high school. Love that she's an unknown. I think that's super cool. Maddie Ziegler from all the Sia music videos, who was on Dance Moms, for those of you like that, she was in it too, and she had such a small role. I was underwhelmed by hers as well. And the thing that killed it the most for me was I didn't feel any romantic chemistry between Tony and Maria. On their own, great, like awesome actors, but together, didn't see it. So it wasn't believable for me. I'm comparing it to like, I don't know, I probably shouldn't, but Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. The chemistry, even though most of you probably know this is common knowledge now, they did not get along. They didn't really like each other. So the acting was on point there, but I felt the chemistry, it was believable. So, I mean, spoilers here, West Side Story is an adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. So you know that the ending is not going to be good. And when that horrific, sad ending happens, you feel sad, but you don't feel emotionally crushed, I think, because it didn't feel believable to me. Good things about it. Dancing, the choreography, so well done. Beautiful. I just wanted to like get one of those big dresses on and dance with them. The man who plays, oh my gosh, I'm blanking his name. Let me look this up. Riff. Okay, I never heard of him before either. Mike Faced, he's so good. He was one of my favorites. Believable. I really felt like scared when he was in a fight scene, and I loved his singing voice. I thought his acting was awesome. And David Alvarez, who played Bernardo, I loved him too. I thought they were really well chosen. And it felt, I don't know, their like chemistry as antagonists in the film was more realistic to me than the romantic. You cannot go wrong with the music here, people. I mean, come on. It's classic. I challenge you this. Even if you're not a musical person, someone who loves like all things theater, you probably know 75% of these songs. Test yourself, go like listen to the soundtrack and be like, oh yeah, I've heard like Michael Bublé do that, a rendition of that song, or I've heard that in like a commercial or something. These songs are iconic, and even if you think you don't know them, you do. But beautiful songs, and not changed much at all. Could it have been better? Yes. I look at it like, wasn't it an experiment? Yeah. And some people say, look, you don't mess with perfection. You don't mess with a story that just should not have been redone. Like, let's get away from this obsession with redoing everything that's already been done, and let's do something new. So I do see that side of it as well. Remember I told you guys last week, the way I know if I like a film is how often I think about it afterwards. And for this, I did think about it the next day. And Tag and I had a good discussion about, you know, what would we rate it? And do we feel like we'd see it again? I think I might see it again once when it comes out, but it's just not a film where I'd be like excited to see it again. I have listened to the soundtrack a few times while driving. My favorite time to listen to anything, which I like, but I don't know if I'd watch it again. So I'm giving it a 3.5, which feels low. I went back and forth giving it a 4. And I think I don't want to compare it. I was going to say, what did I give the episodes, the movies last week, and I think I gave Don't Look Up 3.5. So I'd probably give it the same because I can't discount the acting of some of the actors, not all, and the great songs, and just the choreography were stunning. And the fact that in my mind, like, some of my favorite movies are Steven Spielberg, so I feel like he technically can do no wrong. But yeah, I don't know if you guys know, but there were a bunch of creators of West Side Story, the musical, when it was in theater, not before it became the 1961 film. And one of the creators, and this connects to my next thought. One of the creators was Stephen Sondheim, who literally was like involved and really excited about this production and died a few days before it was released. So that was tragic, and it got a lot of the actors talking, etc. But it connects to my next film, which is the first film I saw of these three, and the first film I saw in a movie theater after COVID on my birthday this past year. So on November 11th this past year, saw Tick, Tick, Boom. Also directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Not that Lin-Manuel directed In the Heights, but a connection there. And the music is by the creator of Rent, Jonathan Larson. And Jonathan Larson's mentor was Stephen Sondheim, who wrote for West Side Story. So we see how all three of these films are connected. All right, so Stephen Sondheim, I'm gonna have to write out a little chart here and put it on the video. But Stephen Sondheim created the music for West Side Story. He was mentoring and gave a lot of help and advice to Jonathan Larson. Tick, Tick, Boom is based on his life story. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda was the director of Tick, Tick, Boom, and he also did the music for In the Heights. And if you want to go even further, West Side Story and In the Heights were very preoccupied, and rightly so, with making sure accurate representation was given to the characters here. So all three kind of connect in a really cool way. I thought that was awesome. But I saved, in my opinion, the best for last, because of these three, I really, really, really love Tick, Tick, Boom. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, Andrew Garfield. I feel Andrew Garfield is one of the most underrated actors of the past, like, I would say 2 decades. He started when he was really young, so maybe the last decade is probably a bit of a stretch. Most people know him from Spider-Man. Love him in Spider-Man. The second Spider-Man, not the Tobey Maguire, not the one I referenced last week with Kirsten Dunst, this second one. You might know him, and this is getting kind of more deep for people who really like him. He starred in a movie with Keira Knightley, one of my favorites, yet cannot remember it. So there's that. Give me a second, I gotta look it up. What am I thinking? It was so good. It was so long ago too. Okay, his movie is Never Let Me Go. Never Let Me Go, based on a book, was in 2010. So good. Absolutely loved him in The Social Network. Okay, I might even insert my favorite clip here when he says, it's so good. I can quote the whole thing. It's so good. When, he plays the friend of Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg kind of screws him over and is like, what do you mean? Like, your share. You lost your share. You're cut out. And he's like, comes in, he has a suit on, he storms in, and Justin Timberlake's character, Napster guy, is kind of like on Mark's side. And Andrew just like delivers the line so well. He's like, wait, I have to find it. It's so good. I'll insert it after, but I usually quote it. I won't bore you with it. But it was then where I was like, this guy has like, you look at him and he's kind of like seems dorky and like this, I don't know, but he's so talented. And he's been in a lot of other stuff that, you know, way back that people haven't even heard of. But I feel like this is really going to skyrocket him, because I did not know he could sing until I saw the trailer. Love his voice. I've listened to the soundtrack so much. I loved that I saw it on my birthday. It opens up with the birthday on 3090. With the song 3090, because he's turning 30. So again, this is based on the creator of Rent, Jonathan Larson, who created this. It's also a stage production based on his own life and his struggle with like coming to terms with, I'm almost 30 and I don't have a family like I thought I would. My career is not where it should be. He's trying to write a musical and he hasn't had success. And again, I have spoilers, but I also don't want to spoil the whole thing. He is just this starving artist, and he's having issues with his girlfriend who wants to move on and move to a different state, and he doesn't want to leave because he's in this New York scene and the struggles there, and just the portrayal of Jonathan Larson is on point. Like if you watch a video of who Andrew is being, who his character is, you will just feel like, wow, you embody that character. And I just read that human being. But I think what's so great, and I gave this a 4. I almost gave it a 4.5, but again, I know I keep saying like there's something, it has to be not perfect, but it has to be close to perfect. I loved the music. I loved Andrew in it. Wasn't a fan of Vanessa Hudgens' character, who didn't have a major role. Alexandra Shipp, who played his girlfriend Susan, I did like their connection. I think she's a great actress. I think maybe Robin DeJesus, who plays Michael, his best friend who has AIDS, their connection was incredible. I think their chemistry was great. And now as I'm saying it, I'm like, well, maybe they did all have great chemistry. But something, and it could just be the theater production itself. Because obviously, I think all of us, whether you're a theater nerd or not, have heard of Rent. Whereas even theater people who you might never have heard of Tick, Tick, Boom. And it wasn't a big success, right? But I think there's something lacking in the story, that not lacking per se, but that it's not overly exciting. However, of the 3 of these, I would probably watch this one again. I love the music. I think it was so good to see an underrated actor like Andrew Garfield like come into his own. He won the Golden Globe, again, that were not aired, for Best Actor in a Musical. Now, they don't separate those categories in the Oscars, so he will be up against, yes, you guessed it, the big heavy hitters like Will Smith, like Denzel Washington, and like Benedict Cumberbatch, who we just talked about in Power of the Dog. And compared to them, I unfortunately don't feel like Andrew has a chance this time around, but the fact that he got the Globe and was nominated is huge, and I hope will further his career a lot, because he deserves it. All the other actors do too, though. I mean, there's a cameo, but obviously it's not really him, but Stephen Sondheim, not the right word because cameos when it's the real person, but Stephen Sondheim is in it, so there's the connection there. If you're a theater lover, you'll love it, and so I do think it deserves a 4. I love how how many times can I say love, guys? How many times? I love too many things. Let's just be real. But it is the season of love. Happy February, by the way. So maybe I can love a lot in this. I feel like I did kind of a disservice to these 3, rushing it. But again, I don't want these videos to be that long. Just my quick synopsis of the 3. I feel like these first 5, not overwhelmed by any of them, and I guess I'm still hunting for the one movie that I'm gonna just be able to rave about to you guys. But like all pieces of art, I don't know, is there always something we can find to shift or change? Maybe so. So I welcome your comments, I welcome your feedback. If you have never seen them, watch them before you watch this. If you have, tell me which one of these three was your favorite. Should I even be comparing them? Am I absolutely wrong? Have I mispronounced another thing? But I will see you next week here's my preview. Next week I am reviewing The Tender Bar, which is from Amazon Prime with Ben Affleck, and CODA, or CODA, which stands for Children of Deaf Adults, which is an Apple TV Plus film. Both are, I paired these together. I don't know if you noticed the trend, but the first two movies I paired because they were like, I thought of as big blockbuster like Netflix, that'll be a good introduction. Obviously this episode musicals. Next week will be difficult family relationships. So both of these films talk about the ebb and flow of dealing with family, with larger issues at play in the background. And I'm excited to talk about them because they were really good films. Yeah, I think that's it. Ta-ta for now. Good to see you. Appreciate all of you watching, and I'll see you next week.